Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the deck. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood. Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
Here's Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the code check-in.
And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do?
We give the people what they want.
The people wanted the Falcons and the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and that is exactly what they got. Two absolute blowouts on Conference Championship Sunday. Which team was more impressive to you, Mr. Rose?
The Atlanta Falcons. We've seen, even being shorthanded, the New England Patriots make it to the Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, they've been in more Super Bowls than any franchise in league history.
Yep.
To do it without Rob Gronkowski is truly impressive, especially when Hogan is your number one receiver on the day, and he catches for the same statistics as Julio Jones, who's an all-world receiver. 180 yards, 2 TDs, but the Atlanta Falcons were more impressive because coming into this year's playoffs, people wanted to see if they could take that next step. The Falcons have had amazing regular seasons here recently, but they just came up short in the playoffs. Matt Ryan, who I think is going to be named league MVP, has been terrific all season, throwing touchdown passes to 13 different individuals. They have one of the best and most versatile running back tandems in the league, in Freeman and Coleman, who can both catch as well as run out of the backfield. And I mentioned the all-world Julio Jones, who just really took over in the game. And how about the play down the right sideline? The combination of speed and power with the stiff arm and the physicality over the second guy to get to the end zone. The Atlanta Falcons and the way they defense played against Aaron Rodgers and put up 40-plus points is clearly more impressive.
As a die-easy Patriots fan, that Falcons performance was absolutely terrifying. It was terrifying because you always think of, Julio Jones. Oh, let's take away Julio Jones. Mohamed Sanu was phenomenal. I mean, Mohamed Sanu lined up at quarterback and got yards. They gave him a pitch play. He got yards. Down the sideline, he got yards. And then they throw it to the fullback. Oh, okay, we got to worry about Sanu and Jones, and we got to worry about Freeman and Coleman. And then they throw it to the fullback for 40 yards. It just seems like Matt Ryan is dialed in right now.
He absolutely is. And the Final Four weekend of football, it was acknowledged that he was the only quarterback that hadn't won a Super Bowl. And I loved his answer. Not yet. And the way he's played all season, it continues to be validated by the way they put up points at an astronomical rate, leading the league in that figure and so many other offensive categories. And his ability to scramble, too. How he scrambled for that 14-yard touchdown scamper. He's playing wonderful football, and watching them play on Sunday, I'm just going to put it on wax right now. The Atlanta Falcons are my pick to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, wait, say that again. Say that again, Mr. Rose.
The Atlanta Falcons are my pick to win the Super Bowl.
Even as a die-easy Patriots fan, there's something very, very lovable about this Falcons team. You've got the owner dancing after the game. You've got, Sam Jackson's there, Usher, Bow Wow. Who else is there? Jeezy's there. Jermaine Dupri is there. It just seems like Atlanta is a great city. They're getting behind this team, and this team has all of the momentum heading into the Super Bowl, even over a Patriots team that just dominated the Steelers and the 3Bs. Let's not overlook those Patriots. What did you like from them on Sunday?
Well, besides the fact that they're wonderfully coached by Bill Belichick, they did a really good job of limiting Antonio Brown. That's the first thing that stood out to me. Second, keeping Ben Roethlisberger uncomfortable in the pocket. They did catch a break losing Le'Veon Bell, who, in my opinion, is the best back in the game, rushing and catching out of the backfield, though D'Angelo Williams is an admirable replacement. They actually scored a touchdown on the drive where he first got into the game. I, however, saw a Pittsburgh defense that literally got shredded all over the lot.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that, the Atlanta Falcons left no doubt to me that going into the Super Bowl, of course, you have Tom Brady, who was amazing, throwing for a couple of touchdowns, over 300 yards, doing what he do, making people around him better as the great ones do. I mentioned Hogan and Edelman, both for over 100 yards. They have terrific tandem in their own right at running back in Blount, and a change of pace with Lewis. Blount is going to pound inside the tackles, but rush for yards and has gotten more TDs than anyone in franchise history, and Lewis can catch out of the backfield. So both have dynamic things about their offense, but I just think the Falcons have a lot more. I think in the Super Bowl is where New England's finally going to miss Gronk.
Yes, Gronk, I have a couple things about Gronk. Number one, he was not on the sidelines. He was in the suite. Why do you think he was not on the sidelines?
Well, because he has an injury to a lower extremity. Yep. And a lot of times you don't want to be bouncing around, limping around on the sideline for 60 straight minutes. You don't have the flexibility to be comfortable, continue to elevate your leg, and more importantly, it's more fun in the suite.
It is.
He sit back and relax.
You speak about him
have
being
whatever
comfortable.
Food and beverages I want, and just chill.
He didn't look very comfortable in that blazer. It didn't look like that blazer was even his. It looked like they were like, "Sir, if you're going to be in the suite, you have to wear a jacket." He's like, "What? You have one for me?" They gave him this huge jacket. I think who had the bigger jacket? Tom Brady on the sidelines with that gigantic winter coat, or Gronkowski with his gigantic blazer in the suite. Never really get to the bottom of that. But I have a feeling they kept him off the sidelines because they didn't want him to get too fired up. You know what I mean? You don't need that energy around there. Like you said, he could injure himself, and who knows. But I bet he did have fun in the suites as the Patriots pulled away from the Steelers. Do you think that this late night alarm had anything to do with the Patriots win?
Not at all. And for whatever it's worth, the two teams that talked about having the flu going into the game, the Steelers and the Packers, they both lost. So how much of a factor did that play? We'll truly never know. The fire alarm does have some sort of effect when you have to get up out of your room in the middle of the night. But ultimately, what happened on the football field was a determining factor. And we saw two teams in the Patriots and Falcons that were superior to the people they were playing that day.
Do you think Antonio Brown's famous Facebook stream distracted the Steelers and impacted that game?
I don't necessarily feel like it impacted the game. It's different from what Odell did, because what Odell and the wide receivers for the Giants, what they did was on Monday before the game. So now we have to wonder if you're preparing the way you should. We have to talk about it all week. And then you double down in the warm-ups on the field with cell phones and your shirt's off again, reminding us, yeah, we partied on Monday, but we about to ball out in Green Bay on Sunday, regardless of the weather. But then they came out and they struggled offensively. He dropped a couple of passes and had the second lowest amount of receiving yards in his career. For Antonio Brown, while it was insubordinate and immature, it was actually after a victory. He was in the locker room, and so while he did get disciplined, and of course, again, a distraction is something that you have to answer or your teammates have to answer that have zero to do with the actual game. So, yeah, you can say it was a distraction, but I don't think it was the reason why they lost, because they got the brakes beat off of them.
Jalen Rose, after the game, Ben Roethlisberger hinted that perhaps the moment was too big for some of his young teammates. Are you surprised that he took that action and threw his teammates under the bus?
I'm not surprised, and I don't look at it as though he threw his teammates under the bus. I think it was an honest assessment from a Super Bowl champion quarterback, the leader of that football team, and it all plays into some of the things that you asked me about the Facebook incident with Antonio Brown. And the reality of it, when you looked out on the field, they did have a bunch of young players that they needed to perform on a big stage. They were in new roles in those situations for the first time, and they were unable to get it done.
That's fair. Do you think some of Le'Veon Bell's running style, the way he's so patient, the way he's so relaxed, and he evaluates everything so slowly, do you think that has anything to do with his use of medicinal materials? Maybe he's just too relaxed. Like, he's too chill. I just kind of feel like everyone talks about how patient he is in the hole and how he just surveys everything. And I'm just like, no, that's not true. He's just high. Like everyone else is just hitting the hole so hard. If you watch the Falcons running backs just going a million miles an hour, Le'Veon Bell's just chill, evaluating everything. Even when he got hurt kind of chill. He just kind of fell over. Do you think his medicinal influences his running style?
That's a really good joke, but I disagree with that.
What?
He's an every down back. It's only a few of them in the league. Arizona has one. The Rams have one. The Cowboys have one. And the Steelers have one. And so based on the ability to set up blocks once he gets the football and that patience you described, plus his ability to catch out of the backfield, it's just what makes him unique and special.
You mentioned earlier Chris Hogan had the exact same stat line as Julio Jones. His 9 receptions, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Chris Hogan has sort of blown up in the last 24 hours. People who have been watching the Patriots have seen him be productive for weeks now. Do you think he gets sort of more attention and even a little disrespected because he is a little-ish white dude from a small, tiny college?
I don't think it has anything to do with his race or where he's from, because if you look at each roster in the NFL, you're going to have multiple players that come from small schools, or you may want to judge them by how they look, but are still productive players in the NFL. I think the reason why he probably gets overlooked is that he wasn't a legitimate collegiate performer on the football field. No. So now when you see him playing for the Buffalo Bills and all of a sudden he's not there anymore and he's on the Patriots, you're like, there's Bill Belichick again, doing something that we slept on, and before you know it, in the biggest game of the year, he's out there putting up Julio Jones numbers.
One thing about watching that Patriots game is when you watch from the regular viewing audience angle, you can't really see the receivers and the routes that they're running. You just see Tom Brady gear up to pass, and then you see him throw the ball, and the camera pans to the left or the right, and then you just see a wide-open receiver with no one around him. Do you think this is great scheming by the Patriots or poor secondary play by the Steelers?
It's great play design and execution. And also, you're going to hear a lot of talk about teams and their defensive backs. Let me just tell you, the game is different now. You may have 2 really good corners, but now in the league, they play 4 wide, 5 wide. They'll have 2 backs out of in and out of the backfield. Like, there's constant change in motion. So you think you want your best corner, and we see a couple do it. Patrick Peterson comes to mind, that follow receivers on a weekly basis. But also, he can't guard everybody. And when you have multiple players with different skills, you got Sanu, and you got Julio, then you got Freeman, then you got Kemp.
And Gabriel. So
Freeman
many.
and Coleman and Gabriel. You have so many players to keep up with. It's not necessarily realistic to think you're going to have 5 lockdown corners. So when you're watching football, always pay attention to the front 7. If they're getting pressure on the quarterback, he has to get rid of the ball. Now all of a sudden those defensive backs look a whole heck of a lot better. When the guy got to get rid of the ball, oh man. But if you have to cover longer, that's when great quarterbacks can pick you apart.
And I think you saw that in the NFC Championship game. Aaron Rodgers only was sacked a couple times, but there was always someone in his face. There was always someone pressuring him. He was pressured, I think, over 20 times in the game. Do you think they can get after Tom Brady, who gets rid of the ball quicker than anybody in the league?
I think they can, led by Vic Beasley. They did a terrific job of disguising their blitzes, as you mentioned, getting hits and hurries, and 1 interception on Aaron Rodgers. And he's a moving target in the pocket, while Tom Brady is more classic pocket passer, dancing in the pocket, really patient, will pick you apart that way. But the more important thing you mentioned, get rid of the football fast. I remember watching so many times that back in the day when the Pittsburgh Steelers had amazing defense where they just blitzed the quarterback tirelessly. And Tom Brady just throw the ball so fast you get discouraged. So I don't think that that's going to happen to Atlanta, because this is the defense that they've implored to get to this point. And since it was successful against Aaron Rodgers, they hope it'll be successful against Tom Brady.
As someone who's just a fan of sports, but more than that, a fan of drama, which would you prefer to see at the end of the Super Bowl after the confetti has gone down? Roger Goodell have to hand the Lombardi Trophy over to Belichick, Kraft, and Brady, or Arthur Blank putting on another dancing exhibition.
We've seen Belichick get 4 Lombardi trophies. I think it's Atlanta's turn.
You think it's time for the dance?
Yep.
And also, here's a narrative I want to shoot down with a double barrel.
Does it have anything to do with him dancing?
The Patriots' motivation because of Deflategate. You don't cheat and get caught, but then become the victim when you win.
Hold up.
Spygate happened.
Hold up.
Deflategate happened.
Did you just say the Patriots cheated?
Yep.
Yes.
They did not cheat.
Spygate, did that happen?
Yep.
Yes, that did happen.
I remember talking to Marshall Faulk about this.
Those were rogue
and he literally said
employees of the Patriots organization.
They
Unauthorized
were
recording just rogue actions by unauthorized behavior by the Patriots employees.
Spoken as somebody from the Northeast that's really sensitive about this topic, but you're not being real. Spygate, did that actually take place? Did they get punished for Spygate?
Allegedly, yes.
Yep.
Deflategate, did they get punished for that?
They decided to stop fighting for justice.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so because those two things happened, let's not act like they now have motivation because they got caught. They're just a really good football team that made it back to the Super Bowl, that has an opportunity to get Tom Brady his 5th ring.
After the Spygate season, what was the Patriots' regular season record after that happened?
That don't mean it didn't
Oh,
take
that was
place.
16-0. And
That don't mean it
this
didn't take
year, when
place.
Tom Brady came back, how many football games did he lose?
That don't mean it didn't happen.
But it does mean that perhaps they do find motivation from this. You don't think that the Patriots, you don't think that Bill Belichick just a little bit has a little extra motivation to win just to stick it to Roger Goodell?
Everybody's looking at this wrong. If anything, the opponent has more motivation to beat the team that cheats and continues to win championships, not the other way around.
That is a decent point. I think when you get to a Super Bowl level, you're not looking for motivation. You know, it's not like a regular season game in the middle of an NBA season where you just have to, get up to go. It's like, this is the Super Bowl. This is what we all dream about as children. Do you think Jalen Collins has supplanted you on the Jalen Power Rankings?
This week, yeah.
He did.
Playing in the Super Bowl.
I think he did. He was on the Falcons. He had the great strip of Ripkowski, and then he had an interception later. 2 takeaways for Jalen Collins. Are you more proud of him as a fellow Jalen, or a little concerned about your standings in the Jalen Power Rankings?
I'm happy for him because I rooted for him at LSU. Thought he was a terrific talent. Came into the league, made big plays in the NFC Championship game, as you noted. Yes, this week he's the most famous Jalen, and rightfully so. I'm just old and washed up and doing a television radio program with you.
Jalen, there's a lot of debate about whether or not Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, and I'll leave that to other people. Does Tom Brady fire the best snot rockets in all of sports? I'll take that as a yes. Jalen Rose, Patriots, Falcons, Super Bowl 51 in Houston in 2 weeks. Being part of the sports media for as long as I have been, and I know you've been a part of the sports media for almost just the same amount of time, there is something about the Super Bowl that is, for lack of a better term, kind of annoying. You end up just talking about it for 14 days in a row, and every storyline just gets a magnifying glass on it, and there's media day and the circus that comes with that. What about this week is important? Like, what right now here on this Monday, let's forget the rest of the 13 days ahead of us. What is the most important storylines about these two teams playing in Houston for the Lombardi Trophy?
For me, the most important story is the further you advance in the playoffs, the more it magnifies weapons that aren't available to you. And for me, this is where the Patriots miss Gronk.
That's a good point.
Because when I see the Atlanta Falcons throwing the football around the lot so frequently, putting up big-time numbers, they're going to score points. Julio Jones also now has that 13 days to further heal a turf toe that he's been dealing with all season, though he still caught for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sanu, Gabriel are going to be crucial as pass catchers. Also out of the backfield, you have Coleman you have Freeman. Both can run, both can catch. Having all of those weapons, and of course the Patriots have weapons too. They have an all-time great quarterback in Tom Brady. You have Edelman, who's a terrific slot machine underneath. The emergence of Hogan can't be overlooked. And Bennett is a really good blocker. That's a productive tight end as well. But I think they won't have the type of firepower. You could give it to Blunt and hope that a fast defense like the Falcons, you can run straight up the middle and slow them down from sideline to sideline. You hope that can happen. You hope Lewis can catch out of the backfield. He's been terrific in this year's playoffs. So they also have weapons. I just think the weapons for the Patriots, other than Tom Brady, probably are a luxury vehicle. So say they would be a Phantom, while the Falcons' weapons are a Ferrari.
It's a good point, especially when you talk about guys like Gabriel and Freeman and Coleman. They're just so fast, and when they turn the corner, especially Freeman and Coleman, when they get one-on-one with a linebacker in the flat, like that's going to be 20 yards and a broken tackle. It's terrifying as a Patriots fan. As a terrified Patriots fan, tell me what I should be optimistic about.
You have Belichick and Brady.
It almost feels like, and this is going to sound crazy, I'm relying to mentally beat the opposition and not physically beat the opposition. Like, I want to fool the opposition. I want to out-scheme the opposition. I want these little receivers to have better routes that the secondary can't figure out. Whereas the other side of the ball, it's like, oh, we just have better players. You know, like Julio Jones is just better than your secondary. Malcolm Butler, I do not think can match up with Julio Jones. Like, it just seems like this is going to be a very difficult, tough task for the Patriots.
And I think the four best players in the league, regardless of position, are Brady, Rodgers, Gronk, and Julio. So you're going to get to see two of the top players in the league. And I agree with your assessment that him getting 13 days to rest that turf toe is going to further be a problem. And I know Bill Belichick loves to take away what other teams do really well, but the other weapons are going to be a problem, especially the ones coming out of the backfield.
You always hear that. Bill Belichick takes away the weapon of the other team. Bill Belichick takes away what the other team wants to do. Okay, well, I don't know if everybody else saw the opening drive of the Falcons, but Julio Jones barely touched the ball. And Mohamed Sanu had, 3 receptions and a run. And it was like, okay, you guys want to take away Julio Jones? We have so many weapons around us. Like, I don't even think that they use their backs as much as they had during the regular season. They just have so much offensive firepower.
Matt Ryan, to further your point, set an NFL record. He threw touchdown passes to 13 different individuals. That is outstanding.
So it has come out that Tom Brady and Matt Ryan have a bit of a relationship. Matt Ryan was at Boston College, and they've seen each other at sort of like mixed squad practices, and they text each other throughout the season. Does Tom Brady text Matt Ryan or vice versa over the next 13 days?
Yes.
What do you say? What could you possibly have to add?
Here's the difference in these relationships. They face one another, but they don't play against each other. They're not on the field at the same time. So quarterbacks have a unique kinship with one another about the nuances of the game, and they're allowed to have friends in the league also. Those texts probably look like, you got it done. Best of luck. Looking forward to playing against you guys. That's it. It's not going to be, hey, we're going to watch out for our linebackers. You know they're going to be blitzing. Hey, our corner, Malcolm Butler, he's going to follow Julio around the entire field and lock him down. It won't be anything as it relates to technicalities that may or may not take place in the game. But, yes, I do think that that communication is going to happen.
One thing that's not going to take place, Jalen and Jacoby are not going to travel to Houston for the Super Bowl. No. Too many people, just too much, too hard to get around town, just hard to get a reservation at a restaurant, hard to get to the airport, from the airport, and all of that. However, when you look at the Falcons sideline, and you've got a whole little VIP section there. It's got Sam Jackson and Usher and Ludacris and Jeezy and Jermaine Dupri and Bow Wow and the Brat. Is there a little party that wants to go just for the parties?
Not at all. But one of the things I will say is I appreciate the Falcons in particular, and the Hawks do a really good job of this as well. There are a lot of celebrities at these playoff games, but the team doesn't give them the access that you see them get in Atlanta. That's what I appreciate, them being allowed to be on that platform and represent their squad.
Atlanta definitely does embrace their local celebrities. Like, they always have a night for 2 Chainz or a night for Jeezy. Like, it seems that that's at the Hawks games. And at the Falcons game, they have like their own little pen that they can all hang out in and do whatever rich people do at football games. I find that they've done a really good job of embracing the community. And I'm really, really excited to see my Patriots. Of course, they're my Patriots now because they're winning. To see Patriots win. And Roger
Were they your
Goodell,
Patriots when they got caught with Spygate?
They weren't my Patriots then. Have to hand the Vince Lombardi trophy to Brady and Belichick. However, there's something about Arthur Blank's dance moves. They've improved week to week. And with 2 weeks off, do you think he will have an especially prepared dance for a Falcons victory?
Nothing especially prepared. Strictly freestyle. If the Atlanta Falcons win the Super Bowl, oh, he's going to be joyous as anyone. He doesn't have to prepare for that.
Not at all. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers for a second. He says that this team, this Packers team, sort of has what it takes. They are Super Bowl contenders. They're looking forward to next year. He is confident that this team will be back, not just in contention, but in the Super Bowl. Do you believe him?
They have weapons also. He has a dual threat quarterback, and I just mentioned, in my opinion, he's the second best player regardless of position in the league. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, Cook, they're explosive. The thing that the Packers are missing is a consistent running game. Somebody they can turn around, hand the football off to, and can make game-changing plays either in the run and or pass game. And as you evolve in the playoffs, you become more one-dimensional. You saw that in the first half against the Falcons. They probably only rushed the ball for 3 carries. And that now allows the defense to tee off on Aaron Rodgers and make life difficult. And also, their defense. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, in particular in the defensive backfield. A couple of their players are named players like a Julius Peppers, still got a couple of sacks but has gotten older. They need Clay Matthews to play like an elite linebacker. And that's one of the things that sometimes when you're watching the Packers play, he's all over the field. And sometimes the opposing team does a really good job of stymieing him. So they could use help on the defensive side of the football and in the running game.
Certainly could use some help in the secondary. Out of the conference championship weekend in the NFL, there were some great questions that are now raised as we head towards the Super Bowl. Questions like, how do you stop Matt Ryan and all those weapons that he has on offense? And what can Vic Beasley and the Falcons defense do to stop Tom Brady? But the biggest question coming out of Sunday's NFL action is, does Troy Aikman look like a white Jay-Z? We've reviewed the footage.
I saw the footage, and on wax, I can't front. The forehead, the nose, the cheeks, they resemble somewhat.
He looks like a white Jay-Z. He looks like a white Jay-Z. I don't know who pointed this out. I don't know why this has never been unearthed by our species up to this point. And I really want to know what Troy thinks about it. Do you think he takes it as a compliment? Would you take it as a compliment if someone called you the white Jay-Z?
Here's what you take as a compliment. Being compared to somebody that also is successful. So Jay-Z's a mogul in his own right. So Troy and or vice versa probably don't mind that comparison.
Nope. People that listen to this show know sort of where Jalen and I stand on the music streaming service that Jay-Z has, Tidal. Have you signed up for Tidal yet?
I have not, sir.
I have not signed up for Tidal either, nor will I ever. However, Tidal has just sold 33% of its stake to Sprint. Now, I don't know if you pay as much attention about Tidal as I do, but there's been numerous executives that have left the company. There's been some falsifying about profit margins and some fancy accounting going on. Do you think this was a good move by Sprint?
If Sprint's continuing to try to not only get into the music business, but validate themselves from day one, if you can have Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Kanye, you do it.
Something tells me that Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Kanye are so happy that someone took 1/3 of their company off their hands. Just a feeling. There's a gentleman in the NBA. His government name is DeMarcus Cousins, but we call him
Boogie!
Boogie was called for somewhat of a phantom foul on Dwayne Wade, and after the game, Boogie just sort of gave his thoughts on the performance of the referees that evening.
I think they made the absolute right call. Incredible job by the referee crew tonight. I don't have a complaint in the world. I think they should get more recognition on how well they ref these games. I don't think they get the credit they deserve. So, kudos to them, and I applaud.
Is this a brilliant strategy by DeMarcus Cousins? He cannot get fined for the words that he said, but he is clearly being facetious.
Brilliant strategy, and trust me, this is what happens when you're playing on a team that's out of the playoff hunt, not a contender for a high playoff position, definitely not a championship contender. You get exhausted. You have to fight and try to win every play when you're not as talented or as good as your opponent. So a lot of times you find yourself getting texts. This is why I stopped cursing. A member of the Bulls, early 2000s, seeing myself on film, and I'm like, you know what? I don't like the way that looks. Daughter sitting on the sideline, she's 2 years old. I just didn't like the way that looked. So what Boogie's now doing is sounding like a player that leads his team basically in every major statistical category. Rudy Gay's out. It's a frustration that goes with losing. And, or by the way, Dwayne Wade missed the dunk. A piano got on his back. He had to break away. He looked in the rearview mirror, and he tried to go up with two when he used to go up with one, and he missed it. And coincidentally, Boogie was in the vicinity, and they made the call. I love the way he handled it in the postgame. Save your money.
I loved it too. That was brilliant. One of the smartest things Boogie has done in the past few years. One thing about Jalen Rose really does not curse. Like, we've been doing this show for 5 years, and he really doesn't, not just on wax. Jalen Rose does not curse. And just a lesson for everybody that does curse, including myself. When Jalen does curse, and it's happened like 3 times, it's impactful. Like, it's kind of scary, you know? So, like, perhaps if everybody just dialed it back a little bit, your cursing could be more impactful moving forward. Yep. There was video of a shirtless Ezekiel Elliott at a party behind the DJ booth, dancing, singing along into a microphone, and just generally enjoying himself. Is this just a young man in the offseason champagning and campaigning, or is this someone who should be more careful about what video gets out into the world when he's looking at his brand?
You have to be more careful about the video, and you have to pay attention to your brand. I talked about this previously on this program. There are some things that current professional athletes can do that their predecessors couldn't do, and or vice versa. Champagning and campaigning is retired. I know that young players want to have a lot of fun, as I did as well. But now you're on wax, and that footage never goes away. Nope. And here's the other thing. Everybody that's there, they don't want to see you have fun. And the one time when you walk through the crowd and you happen to bump into somebody the wrong way, or you happen to glare at somebody else's girl, or you happen to be spraying champagne and it gets on the wrong individuals, now that becomes an issue. A lot of testosterone flowing, a lot of pride in the air, liquor and or drugs may be in people's systems. And I hate to sound like old man Jalen and say you can't have fun and you can't go to the club, because you can. But just be mindful that now there's a lot on it, a lot more than it ever has been.
There's been so much discussion about a potential Floyd Mayweather-Conor McGregor super fight / spectacle. Here's an interesting wrinkle. Manny Pacquiao is saying, you know what? If Floyd doesn't fight Conor,
I'll take that money.
I'll take that money and I will fight Conor McGregor. Would a Pacquiao-McGregor matchup actually be a better fight to watch than a potential Mayweather-McGregor matchup?
It'll be better because it'll be longer.
Okay.
If they're boxing and Pacquiao's healthy, no. He won't make swift work of Conor like Floyd would. Like Floyd would beat him in 2 or 3 rounds.
But wouldn't it be better to watch?
That would be a signature knockout for Floyd. That would be Tyson Burbeck for him. Manny Pacquiao will stop him probably 7 or 8 rounds. But McGregor either way does get stopped. And yes, I would watch the fight. I would probably go to the fight.
We have some extremely important news in the world of Star Wars. Episode 8 in the Star Wars franchise has a title. Are you ready, Jalen? Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Are you fired up for Star Wars: The Last Jedi? What if I told you that the same company that is releasing this film is also the company that approves the budget for this program?
Hercules, Hercules, Hercules!
Again, are you excited for Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
See, you don't mind when I sell out and be a company man, but you mind when I sell out and don't want to carry the bat and don't want to sing. Which one is it?
Company man. Whatever's good for the budget is good for me. Now, Jalen, if you remember last week, there was a big debate about who should be the all-star starters. Who should be the guards for the all-star starters? There's only 2 spots, and there's 3 great performers. You have Steph Curry, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook only filling those 2 spots. It was nice to talk about. People had different opinions, but you've made this bigger. You've exploded this. You've really broken this down into who are the best players in the NBA, and it's not as easy to establish as you would think. Please explain, Mr. Rose.
Gather around, boys and girls, in my slick Rick voice. So here's the deal. You want to sound smarter about the NBA?
Yes.
I'm about to tell you the top 6 players currently in the game.
Okay.
And once that happens, you need to make a team of 5 players. So the toughest thing I'm going to ask everyone to do is who sits. We all know that they're terrific players, franchise-changing players, could possibly each end up in the Hall of Fame. But you only can have 5 players on the court at a time. So the toughest thing I'm going to ask you guys, of these 6 individuals, who sits? Okay?
All right.
Russell Westbrook, of these individuals, is in the top 2 in points, rebounds, and assists.
Famously averaging 30 points a game, 10.6 rebounds, and 10.4 assists.
James Harden is in the top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists. This is why all year, when people have been talking about who's going to be MVP candidates, that's why those 2 guys' names frequently come up.
So you have the 6 stars of the NBA, and you're picking 5 to play, and one of them has to sit. Are you saying that both James and Russell Westbrook will not be on the bench when the ball gets thrown up in the air?
They will not. They're asked by their teams to put up historic numbers. Russell Westbrook has a chance to match what was done by the Big O. Average a triple-double for an entire season. James Harden has an opportunity to be the first player since Tiny Archibald to lead the league in not only points, but assists as well. So they are locks to be a part of this lineup. And we're only talking about this year. We're not talking about a legacy
This
play.
is not historic.
We're not talking about resume. We're talking about how they perform this season. And there's a reason why people, when they talk MVP, almost halfway point of the year, the 2 top candidates are Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So they're locks on this team.
Okay.
Now it's where it gets tricky. The next player that's guaranteed to be on this list is LeBron James.
Best player on the planet.
Because he's in the top 4 in points, rebounds, and assists amongst these players. So this scientific evidence seems to work itself out for me. The best player on the planet, that's the reigning champion, doesn't necessarily have to put up on a nightly basis the numbers of the first 2 guys I mentioned, but he's still putting up bigger numbers than the other people I'm going to talk about.
Jalen, I need a 20-second timeout. I think you know exactly what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are two sides to the basketball court. The offensive numbers are only 50% of what you do while you are on the basketball court. Defense is not something that should be overlooked, and I bring this up because you better be putting Kawhi Leonard on this list.
Yep. Kawhi Leonard definitely is going to be on the list. But we didn't want to bury the lead. Not in front of Kevin Durant, who's in the top 5 in all 3 of these categories amongst these individuals: points, rebounds, and assists. That's after changing teams, joining a squad that had a 2-time MVP already on the roster. The next player on this list is Kawhi Leonard, who's in the top 6 amongst these individuals in all of these categories. Kawhi Leonard, when you're talking about top players in the league, some strange reason people overlook him. They don't talk about him. They don't mention him. Maybe it's because he doesn't thump his chest enough.
He doesn't talk enough.
Maybe he's not. Maybe because he's not all about me and the quote. Yep. But when you truly watch basketball and you talked about playing on both ends of the floor, he and LeBron do it the best right now. And it's not an argument. The person who ended up being last on this list happens to be Steph Curry. The only individual who's been a unanimous MVP in the league's history. Now, you got to give him credit for being on the best team, and because they have a big 4, Splash Brothers, KD, who's on this list, and Draymond Green, he's not asked to do as much as the other individuals that I noted. So, of course, his numbers are going to be down. But, man, when you look at a list and say, man, it's 6 players, who do you sit? You almost have to double check it when you say, wow, Steph Curry has to be the person?
Steph Curry is the 6th best player on this list.
It's like you at the gym on Saturday, you're like, who got next? It's like, Steph got next?
Steph's next. Steph's not even on the floor. And look, I somewhat agree with this. I don't have the rankings exactly the same as you, but it does feel like this. It does feel like you are punishing players for having a good team. You talk about James Harden, you talk about Russell Westbrook and how they could be averaging these astronomical numbers. It's because they have to. It's because they don't have the players around them that LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Steph Curry, and of course Kevin Durant have around them. Are you hurting them for being on a good team and leaving Steph Curry on the bench?
No, there are multiple awards, and everybody gets rewarded when they play well. And by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that Russell and James are asked to do more. Let me tell you a secret. For whatever NBA team that you root for, and I probably didn't mention a player on that team, all teams want their players to put up the kind of numbers that they're putting up. They can't. These 2 guys solely have become the reason why these 2 franchises, Houston and OKC, are even in the playoff hunt. Steph Curry, on the other hand, is on a contending team that has a chance to win the championship. So there's levels to this. That's why they have a regular season MVP and a postseason MVP. And Steph still will have the opportunity to get both of those trophies, Finals MVP and League Champion. So I am not punishing him. He just asked to do less in a team dynamic where he plays with 3 other All-Stars.
Okay, now I'm going to show you one way I agree with you, one way I don't. And it all based on this. Do you agree that 50% of what you do on the basketball court is to play defense?
Of course.
So therefore, do you think that should factor in 50% into your considerations of where you rank on this list?
I'm taking everything into account. I'm taking points, rebounds, and assists. I'm taking the historic connotation of what players are getting, what players are doing on the floor, the ability to lead your team to the playoffs, and not. There's a reason why I didn't say Anthony Davis, because he's putting up big numbers, but he's not carrying his team to the playoffs. So that's what Russell and James Harden are literally doing.
For me, the emphasis on defense is why I would put LeBron and Kawhi at 1 and 2, and why I would move down Harden down to number 4, number 5, and Westbrook down to number 3, number 4, and also why I agree with you that Steph Curry is going to be on the bench.
That's fair. But I wasn't asking you per se to rank them based on that criteria. We were just talking about who's having the best season. Is LeBron James league MVP?
No, but is he the best player in the league? Yes.
So if LeBron James is not going to be league MVP, you can't have him at 1. That means he's not having the best individual season. That's the person you should be trying to reward with that trophy.
Well, I don't agree with everybody else. I think the defense is very important. I think when it matters, LeBron James plays some of the best defense in the league.
So is LeBron MVP?
In my mind, yes.
Okay, well then there you go.
I know who's not the MVP, and that's Isaiah Thomas. No. Isaiah Thomas of the Boston Celtics is having a great year. His numbers in the fourth quarter are better than anybody else's in the whole entire league. And here's what he had to say. Quote, "Not to be cocky, but I feel like I'm the best player in the world. What? That's just the work I put in, and if you don't feel like that, then you're cheating yourself." This was on the Podfathers, The Ringer. Is this the case of just, this is how you have to approach sports if you are a professional athlete? Or is this a case of Isaiah Thomas being extremely delusional about where he is in the stack of players in the NBA?
He can't sit in a locker room averaging 28 points per game, about to participate in his second All-Star game, and be fearful of the people in front of him. So that's an answer that he should have and continue to have. The best 3 players in the league are LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Kawhi Leonard in that order. Somebody can argue with me all day about it.
Yeah, we could.
And for Isaiah, though, what he's doing in Boston is phenomenal. Yep. Okay, how about how they fleeced the Phoenix Suns to get him? A player that in the draft went behind Jimmer Fredette, was the final player picked in the second round. What? And has turned himself into one of the best scorers, playmakers, ball handlers in the game. So when you've had that level of success so early in your career, of course you walk around, and I know he's probably 5'9", but trust me, when he look at his bank account, he feels 6'9". When he look at his stats, the exact same thing.
Do you think he looks at KD, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron James and says, I'm a better basketball player than them?
Off wax, no.
Okay, thank you. Hold on a second. We haven't been discussing the Pistons very much lately on this program, I've noticed, Mr. Rose. And perhaps there's a reason for that. Oh, right. They're kind of falling apart. Yep. Over the weekend, your man, Stan Van Gundy, had to take out his phone.
By me.
And he had to text Reggie Jackson.
Stan.
And he had to say, Reggie, we are not trading you for Ricky Rubio. Here's a question. He could have said, Reggie, we are not trading you. But he said, we are not trading you for Ricky Rubio. Do you think this rumor that they were working on this deal is indicative of some of the things that Stan's trying to do with the roster?
There are 3 players currently in the league that have no trade clauses in their contract. LeBron James, Dirk, and Melo. For anybody else, especially if you're not in Golden State or Houston or Oklahoma City or San Antonio, they like, who you want for him? You're not doing your due diligence if you're not fielding calls about players on your roster, even your best players. So I appreciated Stan reaching out to Reggie and saying they were not going to trade him for Ricky Rubio, but I appreciate him even more for not fronting like we wouldn't trade you for anybody, because that's just not accurate.
Do you think Stan is actively trying to shop Reggie Jackson?
This term comes up a lot in the media. I am so glad you used the term shop.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There are 30 GMs and or presidents in the league that preside over basketball operations. And probably except Phil Jackson, the other 29 are constantly talking to one another.
Yeah, Phil Jackson's like, what? He's not. It's a yoga class.
So they're not doing their job and or their due diligence if they're not just fielding those type of calls just to see what's out there.
There's a difference between fielding calls and making calls, which is why I use the term shop. Do you think Stan Van Gundy is actively trying to make calls to get rid of Reggie Jackson and or other players on his team?
Here's how that worked. And I'm glad you also drew that distinction between placing the calls and fielding the calls. That ain't usually how it goes down. remember, these are also relationships that get nurtured, which is why you see certain teams making moves with people that they're familiar with, not just also making moves. Like the Kevin Garnett deal to Boston, that was Kevin McHale and Danny Ainge.
Former teammates.
The Pau Gasol move from Memphis to Los Angeles, that was Jerry West. He's the logo wearing a Lakers jersey. There's a level of familiarity to go in not only deals, but big deals. And so, regardless of why you're calling, players still going to come up during the call. It's just how it works. And the best thing about a trade, and this is coming from somebody that's been traded multiple times, how you have to sell a guy you don't want on your team to another guy who knows you don't want him on his team, on your team, how great he is. That's the biggest sell job that takes place in this. I know you don't want him, but man, I don't want him, but he'll be great on your team. He'll fit right in.
Yeah. I need you to take us behind the curtain. This whole Jabari Parker situation. There was a players-only meeting because the Bucks have been falling apart lately. And then part of the conditions of the players-only meeting is that no one would talk about the players-only meeting to the media. Jabari Parker did so, and then there was some sort of vote or something amongst the players and the coaches, and they decided to punish him by taking him off the bench. Is this normal behavior on an NBA team?
It's one of those things where they were considering bringing him off the bench anyway, probably thought it was best for the team. Now they have a reason to do it. I do, however, like the fact that there's solidarity in unit and they're behaving as a unit. Because when you say our team meeting is going to stay behind closed doors and somebody violates that, they should get punished. They should get fined. Now, the taking them out of the starting lineup part, that's really something that they were considering doing, but this just gave them a reason to actually make it happen. Because if they felt like he was best in the starting lineup for the Bucks to win basketball games on a nightly basis, he would be hearing his name called at the beginning of the basketball game.
I know you heard your name called a lot this weekend, Mr. Rose. I know you did, because they were calling my name too. It was the 11-year anniversary of the 81-point game from Kobe Bryant. I want to ask you a real question, right? There's no one else listening. It's just me and you. Do you think you are unfairly associated with Kobe Bryant's 81 points?
I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant. When you play against the best of the best, and fortunately, I had an opportunity to do that. Whether it's Tom Brady, when they put up big numbers and throw 7, 8 touchdowns in the game, or play against Kobe Bryant when he has an 81-point game. The people that usually get teased happens to be the person that's relevant. So therefore, it falls back on me because I'm loud, I'm on TV, and I have strong opinions. So that's people's way to get back at me for talking about their favorite team or their favorite player. What about the time Kobe Bryant put the smack down on you? But I got a chance to play in the league, and I can actually say I played against Kobe Bryant. So no shame in my game.
One way to hit us up is on our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed. Another way is to leave us a voicemail at 985-80-JALEN. We love these voicemails. Let's listen to the first one.
What up, though? This is Scuba from Sacktown. And I just want to thank you guys for giving up people what they want. Got one quick question, y'all. Who will win in a one-on-one game? Iverson or Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas? Thank you guys for making my job so much better. I'm a mailman, so I listen to y'all every day via Bluetooth headphones. Thank you, and thank you. You're far too kind.
That is love.
I love Scuba from Sacktown. You know what? You know who gets overlooked? Just the U.S. postal system. Sometimes it's just fantastic. How you just have a letter right here, you put a stamp on it, you put it in the mailbox, and then it goes across the country in like 2 days. And it costs you 30 cents. And you know what? Shout out to the postal workers
yes,
and the mail carriers all over the globe, especially domestically here in the United States.
We should keep his voice and allow his voice to sing the intro and take mine off so I can save my voice.
You've been trying to stop singing for years now. No, the thing is what you sing is give the people what they want. They obviously want you to sing, but you don't want to sing. It's like a snake eating its tail. His question, who wins one-on-one, Allen Iverson, or I assume he's talking about the Pistons Hall of Famer, Isaiah Thomas.
So the game has changed a lot when both of these guys were in their prime. So the three-point shot wasn't something that they attempted on average a lot. So for me, this game will be played at and inside the three-point line. I'm going with the person that not only could get you the buckets, but also arguably the best or one of the best defensive guards in the games, in the league's history. That's Isaiah Thomas.
I'm going to say the same thing I always say when this comes up, Jalen. One-on-one is not basketball. It's not who's a better basketball player. What it really comes down to is who's in better shape, who tries harder, and frankly, who's bigger. That's why I'm going with Isaiah Thomas. If Isaiah Thomas can turn around and back you down, Allen Iverson's not getting any rebounds on any missed shots, unless it's one of those where he knows exactly where the ball's going. I'm taking Isaiah Thomas 9 times out of 10 with this one. Big shout to Scuba. I love that call. Let's listen to the next one.
Jalen, this is Tom. I'm originally from Flint. I get the whole Southwest Detroit thing and how your boy Draymond's from Saginaw. Let me ask you a question. What's up with this hair brushing? I'll hang up and wait for your response.
First of all, that was an excellent call. I just like he said, I'm going to hang up and wait for your response. Who knows how long Tom has been waiting for this. Jalen, I will reiterate the question. What's up with all that hair brushing?
I have to give him a secret antidote. He's never seen me brush my hair.
We talk about it often on this program. And you basically spend, of the 2 hours we do this show, we're on the air for, 80 minutes, and we're off the air for about 40 minutes. You spend 38 of those 40 minutes brushing your hair.
Because for those that have waves or had waves in the past, that's an investment in time. And I don't do a good job of the sacrifices needed for somebody that hopes to have waves. What you guys actually see me doing is making a half-hearted effort. I don't wear a do-rag.
Nope.
I don't use hair products.
Nope.
And the only time I actually remember to brush my hair is when I'm about to go on television.
See, you don't have those ocean waves. You're a Michigander. You have those Great Lakes waves. You know? Those little time just lapping on the shore all quietly. No one surfing on them. No one playing in them. Just little puddle waves. Maybe a boat goes by once in a while. Every once a month you've got some waves. But you got Great Lake waves. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hi, Jalen and Jacoby. This is Ali, originally from Pakistan. Huge fan of the show. And you guys deserve a spot in Podcast Hall of Fame. My question is, and I really want you guys to think, how many active players would not want to switch their careers with LeBron James' career? You gotta give people what they want.
Great question.
I do like the question. It does have my mind boggled. First of all, big shout to Ali and all of our international listeners. We love the international listeners. It's one of the great things about this program. So the question is, what active players would not switch careers with LeBron James?
I was going all time because active players, none.
If you asked Dirk, he would say no. But if you asked him really, 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 he would say yes. Like I'm trying to think active players.
Well, the reason why I wanted to go in it from a historical connotation is LeBron is still playing at an all-NBA level, but he's also the most accomplished player still in the league. He has 4 MVPs and 3 championships. So based on that merit, every player would change what they have in for what he has.
One thing that I think people overlook on LeBron is that he's been to the finals for 6 straight years. I think people always say championship, but when your team is the second best team in the NBA, it's a very successful season.
But you know what? Now that I said that, from a historical sense, this is where it gets tricky. And I know I talk a lot about who's the best players of all time. This doesn't necessarily help my list, but I'm going to tell you a few players that would rather have their career and accomplishments than LeBron James.
Oh, there's a lot.
Okay?
There's a lot.
I'm going to give you a few of them. Jordan, Russell, Kareem,
You better say Magic.
Magic, Bird,
Wilt.
Kobe,
Wilt.
Wilt, Tim Duncan.
Oh. JJ
That's the
Barea,
list.
Lance Stevenson. Lance Stevenson would probably rather have his career than LeBron's career. Great question. Thank you so much, Ali. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Yo, what's good? It's Carter from Michigan. I like to play NBA 2K17, the video game, and I have Jalen on my team, and we were in a tie game with 10 seconds left, and he missed a wide open three. I just want to see what you guys have to say about that. And what?
That's on you, Carter. Listen, Jalen is a great scorer, all right? But if you look at Jalen's three-point proficiency over the course of his career, not exactly the same. What you probably should have done, Carter, is up-fake the three, dribbled in, turned around, and then take a nice little turnaround 12-foot jumper. That is Jalen's game.
All I know is this. I've made a couple of game-winning three-point shots in the NBA. I got to make that.
You got to hit that. You got to make that.
My bad. I got to hit that. Fellow Michigander, too, I got to represent. I'll make the next one.
Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, Jacoby. Remember the other day a caller left you a message says you are secretly destroying his relationship because his girl can't stop laughing about everything you said? And guess what? I feel the pain, man. And not only that, during the show, my girl gets mad if I try to have a conversation when you talk. And what should I do?
Okay.
And Jacoby, please tell me how to be funny.
First of all, I understand. And this is what's happening, is I'm extremely funny. I'm very good looking. I'm intelligent. And I'm likable. You know what? Here's the thing. You shouldn't be concerned if you're watching with your girl. You should be concerned if your girl is watching without you. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
What up, though? Jalen, Jacoby, it's Nate from Cincinnati. I just got some brand new white shoes, and I was wondering if you guys had any tips on how I can keep these things clean, because I'm really worried about scuffing my shoes because they're really just all white.
Nate from Cincinnati, that is a common problem amongst young Americans. And here's my advice on that. You're not going to keep your white shoes clean. So what you do is instead of buying one pair of $100 all-white shoes, you get 3 pair of $33 all-white shoes.
Yep. You're talking to the wrong person about this topic, as I'm currently wearing
what?
All-white shoes.
In the middle of winter.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Here's what you got to do. You're in Cincinnati. You cannot rock your shoes on days where the weather's bad. In particular, snowing or raining. You have to put them up. Here's a fashion tip for everybody. Wintertime is about layers. And I know sometimes the weather gets warm in January. Still don't sneak and wear that blazer that you shouldn't be wearing in the winter. We still shouldn't see your toes, okay? Nope. It's about layers in the winter. That's how you know if somebody can truly dress. That's one.
Jalen.
About keeping your gym shoes white, you can't rock them when it's raining or snowing out. See, today, it's a beautiful day. Easily can rock the whites without getting them dirty.
Jalen, can I see that shoe again, please? More white. Your shoes or my teeth?
Your teeth.
Debatable. Wait a second. What are we doing this show? Part of giving the people what they want is finding out what the people want. Part of finding out what the people want is opening up our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed and taking questions. This is a brilliant question from James Somerville. Are you ready?
Let's get it.
I want a real answer to this. Which NBA team's locker room has the nicest bathrooms? It's a brilliant question. It's important to me, someone who plays a lot of road games.
Whoever have the newest arena. That's where this is going.
There was no particular stall that you were just ready for when you got into a certain city. When you were on the Pacers, did you go to Denver like, oh, good, the old handicap stall in the Denver arena? My old friend, welcome back. Let's rekindle this relationship.
I'm a product of the Detroit public school system.
Okay.
Where when you went to the bathroom, first off, you use half of the roll of tissue to put it over the seat.
Okay.
Before you sat down.
Okay. Preparation's
also,
important.
You likely wouldn't even do it on the road because the conditions were worse. And we didn't take showers after the game because those conditions were better than that. So as I got to Michigan, I'm like, hey, take off my shoes, take off my socks, take off my shorts. I just want to spread my legs. And so when you get to the league, I mean, that's upper echelon. That's the suburbs. That's the big time.
Here's a good question. When you go to the gym, do you bring like shower shoes? Do you bring flip-flops?
I do. That's the only place besides the beach I wear slides.
See, I don't do that. I'm just too lazy. I don't want to put my wet flip-flops back in my bag. Like, I just never really did that.
Let me tell you
really
why.
Been a thing
Let
for
me tell you
I don't
why.
have foot problems like you.
Nope. You just exposed one major thing that you have to make happen. At your gym, you need a locker.
I don't have that. Next question we have is from Rishi. Will Jalen be making his lemon pepper wings for the Super Bowl? Another great question.
Absolutely yes.
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
Absolutely yes. No doubt.
As we get prepared for the Super Bowl, we'll be covering all of the important topics about your Super Bowl experience, what appetizers go best with the Super Bowl experience, what venue is best for the Super Bowl experience, and how you should prepare for Super Bowl Sunday. We're not going to give you all those answers here on Monday. We've still got another 9 days. That's 18 hours of shows, but we will be getting there.
And likely, if it works out, we'll be watching the Super Bowl together.
I would love that. Next question we have is from my mama. Do NBA players screen significant others for gold-digging tendencies or not important?
So I'm not going to limit this to gold diggers. You should always be conscious of strangers that you have in your presence.
Good point.
So it could be male or female, whether they're in your house or whether they're in your hotel. They could have sticky fingers. They could be recording your conversation. They could be videotaping you while you're asleep. So hopefully you're around people that you trust, and always remember my mantra. It's not hard. People come into your life only for 4 reasons: to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Choose wisely.
Great one. Next question we have is from L-Dog. Are the Rockets for real? And can they actually compete with the Warriors in a 7-game series? Yes.
No.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Do you mean compete making it to 6 or 7 games, or do you mean putting them on the brink of elimination and then advancing?
I would say compete making it 6 or 7 games. Yes. I would not pick the Rockets in a series over the Warriors, but I would not be surprised
well, you just answered your own
if
question.
it became a 7-game series.
Here's my answer. Warriors in 5.
Oh, no way. Something tells me we'll get the chance to see that.
If somebody does have a shooter's chance, other than the Spurs, it probably would be the Rockets because of their 3-point arsenal.
Let me go down this road again. Blake Griffin he's not going to play, against the Hawks this week, but he's going to be back on the court soon. And then you've got CP3, who should be back, in the late winter, early spring, with just about a month or 2 months to kind of gear up for a playoff run. Have we counted the Clippers out too early?
So here's what I want you to watch for from the Clippers. Them adding Carmelo Anthony to their roster.
Oh.
And not losing Blake Griffin in the process.
Oh. I don't know how you would do that. What? I don't know how you would do that. Some tells me Austin Rivers.
Did I say that? Oh.
So wait. What should I be looking for from the Clippers?
Them adding Carmelo Anthony without losing Blake Griffin.
Really interesting. Really interesting, especially in a salary. When the salaries have to be equal, you have to be looking at one of the Clippers' big three getting shipped out.
Or DeAndre or Chris Paul.
Exactly. Oh, so they keep everybody and add Carmelo Anthony. Huh.
This is how we do it.
Please say that again.
This is how we do it.
Thank you. King Bagella, who I like to think just pushed A instead of S, and he's really King Bagels. For Jalen, would it be a good idea for the NBA to draft high school players into the NBA D-League? Huh. That's interesting. So you draft a high school player instead of going to college, they go to D-League, develop there for a little while, and then they are eligible to play in the NBA.
Here's the thing. When you graduate from high school and you're a basketball player and a football player, you have restrictions that don't take place in other professional sports for some strange reason. So absolutely, yes. As a prospect, you should be able to get drafted to the D-League, go overseas, or even play in the NBA. Have I seen players go from high school to the league and be successful? Oh, yes, many of them in the Hall of Fame.
Anthony wants to know, which young core would you rather have? Philly, Milwaukee, Minnesota, or the Lakers? Huh. That's a
Not
good
the
question.
Lakers.
That's a good question.
Not the Lakers, because of those teams, you named me 15 teams. So you said Philly,
Milwaukee, Minnesota, or the Lakers. I'm
Philly,
going Philly.
Milwaukee,
I'm going Philly.
Minnesota, and the Lakers. So here's what you should look for as a fan when your team is building through the draft. And that's going to be essential as you see the collective bargaining agreement get done, because a lot of notable all-star level free agents aren't going to be willing to turn down the opportunity to get an extra 30, 40 million to go play in another jersey. So you got to tell yourself, did my team draft a guy that has a chance to be a perennial all-star? Philly has that in Embiid.
Potentially Simmons.
Just like the Pelicans have it with Davis, just like the Kings have it with Boogie. Just to give everybody a frame of reference.
Would you say Karl Anthony Towns is one of those players?
Karl Anthony Towns is one of those players in Minnesota.
Okay.
The Greek Freak is one of those players in Milwaukee. The Lakers don't have one of those players.
See, that's what's interesting, and I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head here, is you need a centerpiece. You need a cornerstone for your franchise, one of those build-around players. And when you look through these three teams, you can see one or maybe two in Philly. You can definitely see one in Minnesota or maybe two. You can definitely see one in Milwaukee, but I don't think I see one in Los Angeles.
And if I had to pick, I would take the Greek Freak.
Oh, I'm taking Philly because I love Joel Embiid.
Well, here's what you got to pay attention to, General Manager.
What, the cat celebrations that the fans are doing, putting cats over their heads when they win games?
I love Embiid's personality. He has a magnetic aura that has captured Philly and his teammates. But you know what else he also has? A history of injury. And I hope he can stay healthy.
That made me sad, Jalen. That made me sad.
Well, I mean, if you're building a team, you have to take a player's injury history into account. Either, it depends on what day it is. I'll take Karl Anthony Towns or the Greek Freak. I'll take either one of those guys who haven't had significant injuries at this point of their careers.
I think that's fair. Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and subscribing to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast.
You're far too kind.
Gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need.